Hello, I am Rama. Welcome to my channel Raise Your Vibe with Rama. Most of us live our life sleepwalking through it, offering the same habitual reactions to the different situations that come up. My intention in this channel is to share with you wisdom teachings, insights, and heartfelt stories that will help to wake you up and help you to access that free will, that choice that will enable a life of intentionality and authentic power. Join me. Let us raise our vibe together. Hello, I am Rama Krishnan, and I am the author of this book, The Yoga of Self-Love. In this book, I have shared many different techniques and tools that help us to get deeper in connection with ourself, our inner child, our basic human natural self, and to make peace and to build a beautiful relationship with ourselves so that we can show up in the world more powerfully and brightly. One of the areas that I would like to speak about today is with relation to our past or present imperfections. Many of us carry a lot of shame and guilt either over the past or the present. Now, before talking further, let me describe the difference as it's usually understood, the difference between shame and guilt. And here's the difference. Shame is generally seen as something that you feel about who you are. It's an identity level where we feel, I'm horrible, I am a horrible person. And it's very deeply ingrained into our sense of identity, who we think we are, who we really believe we are. And therefore, we feel ashamed. We can't talk about it to anyone because we know deep down in our heart that we are bad for whatever reason. Maybe because we know we have a temper, or we know we are jealous, or we know that we are lazy. So shame has something to do with our natural self, where we believe that is like a leopard has spots. We believe that's just like intrinsic to our nature. Guilt is regret about something we've done, maybe shared a secret we shouldn't have shared, or said something harsh to someone, or made a choice that hurt somebody, or maybe made a choice that was not good for us. And that's something we do. So to recap, shame is more of a noun, an identity, a personal thing, and guilt is something that we feel that we have done. Usually they go together, because when we don't feel good about ourselves, we deep down believe that we are bad, damaged goods, then we do things that, of course, confirm that we are bad, damaged goods. As you think that you are, so you will show up in the world. So usually guilt and shame go together. And sometimes it doesn't, where we realize, I'm not normally like that, but that one time I lost my temper and I feel guilty about it. Or that one time I made this mistake and I feel guilty about it. Regardless, let us look at the journey of what we do with this, because both shame and guilt are toxic energies to carry. They erode our sense of self. They erode our sense of self-esteem. And thereby, it really depreciates what we attract into the world. Once you have deep-rooted shame and guilt inside of you, you have condemned yourself into an internal prison where nothing good can come to you. Or even if it does, it comes in very small doses. And even when it does come in bigger doses, it is not something that lasts forever. It goes away because at the deepest level, you have decided you are not worthy of something good. So let us look at shame and guilt and ask ourselves whether we are, first of all, are you ready to release this? Or do you think that you have to hold on to it? In my book, The Yoga of Self-Love, I have a conversation with my mother, and I realized that somewhere deep down, She and probably many people in that generation were taught that it's a good thing to feel guilty, that it is your way of telling God, I am sorry. And the way you say it is by carrying guilt throughout your life. So, somewhere deep down, many of us just justify shame, justify guilt, and we feel that we are doing the right thing. We think it is holy. But I'm here to tell you there is nothing holy about guilt. There's nothing holy or sacred about shame. These were not given to us by God. They are not anything that the universe wants us to feel. It is just something that along the way maybe we internalized, maybe we realized that we are having some, blind spots, some areas which are imperfect, and we decided that because that area is imperfect, the whole of us is. Because we have a temper, because we feel jealous, because we are lazy, or whatever else, we decide this whole human being that we are is not worthy of respect, not worthy of good things. And this is why shame and guilt, they are toxic energies, because it's like a leak. You keep doing all good things in the world, you keep trying to make a difference to everyone, but somewhere these thoughts, they are like a little leak that is there, and all the energy that you're bringing into the world is getting slowly, it's getting lost, it's leaking away. So we really need to look at it and ask ourselves whether we are ready to get rid of it, to bring ourselves to a place where we are ready to do the work that is needed so that we are able to end these patterns of guilt and shame. So, what is it that we have to do? There are so many different exercises, and I talk of some of them in my book. But the first question is, as I said, to come to a place of realizing, seeing that this is not sacred, this is not holy. And once we have seen that, to step back and move away from identifying with that shame and guilt and addressing them. We address shame by understanding I may have some imperfections that are kind of part of my nature, but that doesn't define me. Just as I can't help my hair being wavy or whatever, or brown, or the color of my skin, or the shape of my nose, in the same way, I may have some natural tendencies. I can't help it, but I can work with it. I take responsibility without shame, without guilt. Taking responsibility, so responsibility, is to build the muscle so that we are able to respond to those impulses of anger, the impulses, so that we are able to recognize it and realize this is not who I am. But this is part of this framework that I have to work with, part of my nature that I am being called to work with. So we see ourselves not as the person who owns this as an identity, but who has these things that one has to work with. Just as you might have a car that has a problem, you may have a house that, sometimes, I remember a friend of mine, she bought a beautiful house, but then in the neighborhood, after they had moved in, they realized that there was some source of great noise. There was a school right next door that they didn't realize because they bought the house during the holidays and there was no one there. And then that noise they could not help. So what they have to do, they have to figure out how to work with it. So in the same way, we can't identify with this, but we can't deny it either. The answer is not to deny and say, oh, I'm all good, I'm perfect. No, this is my blind spot, this is my weak spot, but I keep working with it so that I am able to work with my nature. And in this way, I then have compassion for others. So instead of shame, when we take responsibility, when we have compassion for ourselves, we are then able to have compassion for others who are also struggling. We are able to look at another person who is also having the same weaknesses that we have, and we say, oh my God, I know how that struggle is. Maybe I can help that person. It becomes easier to forgive others, help them to take responsibility or direct them to take responsibility, invite them to take responsibility. And it becomes easier to forgive ourselves for our lapses without shaming ourselves. Every time we do that, we realize, oh, there I go again. We breathe, we realize what's happened, we step away from identifying with it, and we forgive ourselves. And with guilt, it is guilt for something we've done. It's not who we are. And with guilt, the way we have to move forward is to take responsibility, make amends. If you've made a bad choice, can you make amends for the person or the situation that you've caused? What ways can you make amends? Can you ask that person to forgive you? Sometimes we realize, I know that in my journey, I realized that I was carrying guilt for things that I had done years ago. I did not even know where to find the people who I could make amends with. So I just sat down in my journal and I started writing a letter. I started writing a letter to that person as if they were in front of me. I wrote a letter to them apologizing and saying, if I were to come to that same situation, here is what I would do. So not only did I write a letter of apology to them, sincerely regretting what I had chosen, what I had done, I also continued to write, should that happen now, here is what I would do. So I really use my imagination to rethink the situation and to say, yeah, you know what, in the future, this is what I will do. Now coming to shame. Shame has everything to do with our own self. It's our relationship to our inner child. Our inner child is our basic human self, just the way God created us. And as we begin to realize that we have these qualities, these tendencies in us, maybe we are a little selfish, maybe we are a little narcissistic, we take responsibility. So I started to write letters where I noticed certain things about myself. One of them, for example, was my temper, getting angry very quickly. So I wrote a letter to myself, to my inner child, saying, honey, I know you have a temper and we are going to work with it. I love you unconditionally and I understand how difficult it is when you have such a problem, and let us both work towards it together. I also wrote a letter to God saying, I'm so sorry that this quality is there, but I am just the way you created me. So please work with me, help me. And then as I kept writing letters to myself, taking responsibility, as I wrote letters to God, asking for forgiveness, one day I had an insight. It came to me in meditation. And in that insight, I was directed to write a letter from God to me. And at first I thought, what? Write a letter from God to me? I'm not God. But that voice kept encouraging me. Imagine that you were God, a loving, kind, compassionate God. And you were reading the letter you just wrote. What would you want? What would you say? And so I did a little switch in my mind and moved from being the person who was writing the letter to God to just imagining I was a loving God writing a letter to myself, to my past self, to my present self struggling. And what came from me was just so loving, so forgiving. And I kept writing. My heart was filled with love, my heart was filled with compassion, and my heart was filled with many different suggestions of what I could do to help myself. After I finished writing that letter, I sat and I again switched back to myself and I read that letter. And when I read that letter, it was so beautiful. I felt so seen, so heard. I was filled with love for myself. I felt like I belonged in this world. I was not a mistake. I am all right. and that I have the support of the universe in working with what was given to me. And thereon, following the suggestions, following the mood that was created by that exercise, I found that my relationship with myself became so much richer. Moving from shame and guilt through these exercises, we move to a place of accountability to ourselves, taking our inner demons and working with them, not shoving them, not denying them, but just loving them with accountability, not demonizing ourselves, humanizing ourselves, and even divinizing ourselves to realize I am not just this defective, imperfect person. Inside of me, there is also a wave of deep love, deep wisdom, and deep compassion. And as I keep walking this human journey, I will walk myself all the way to that version of myself. So think about that. For more exercises, here is my book, The Yoga of Self-Love. You can find that on Amazon. More exercises that help us to a place of wholeness and healing through inner child work. Thank you for listening. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who may also be struggling with shame and guilt. And let us all work our way, all the way to our divine inheritance, our wholeness.